So we're going to dig a little deeper into this rabbit hole of how thoughts do not exist. And this is so ironic because I was a cognitive psychology professor for a long time, and that's the study of thinking, cognition. And then there's this epiphany that the very substance of my area has no substance to it at all. It's illusory. It only appears to have substance. But it's a far bigger irony because for so many of us, thinking seems to stand between us and happiness, between us and the life we want to live, and we're desperately looking around for that light switch. Can I just turn the thoughts off? But you don't need a light switch because they're not even there in the first place. And so that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And when I say they're not real, I mean they have no real independent existence. Another way you could put it is that thinking needs consciousness, but consciousness does not need thinking. And so for the illusion to take place, consciousness has to be reality. And I'll give you a few examples of that where we've stumbled on this without even knowing it. The first is in science. And so science started off using definitions like ordinary people use them. And so you would use ideas to define other ideas. And you can look up love in the dictionary and you'll get some kind of, love as a concept will be defined by other words and concepts. Love is an intense emotional experience between two or more people. And okay, do I really know what that means after I read it? Because that's the trick of thinking. It feels like they feel real, like any illusion or mirage. They're not an illusion unless they're pulling it off, right? But science recognized very quickly that the problem with this is that because we have so much baggage, all of our thoughts were slightly different and biased. And so people couldn't agree on simple definitions. So they found out that they had to use something different. And what they came up with is called operational definitions, which is to define something by the set of operations you use to measure the concept. And so instead of just saying, look, intelligence is how smart you are, because I can't see how smart you are, I really don't know what it means. So let's say, look, let's give an operational definition. Intelligence is your score on my IQ test. Now, you may not like that, and I've even critiqued it before, but it's operational, which is to say, it's conscious. You can go in and directly experience all the questions. You can count up how many were correct, and that is the conscious experience of intelligence. You get to directly experience it for yourself, and you can do the same thing with love. So my operational definition of love is that love is when two people are holding hands. And you may not like it, but it's operational, which is to say it is conscious. It's a conscious definition because you can look around and directly experience, well, who's holding hands and who isn't. And you could say these people are in love because they're holding hands and these people are not. So operational definitions work in science and they're fundamental. So science fundamentally relies on consciousness, not ideas. And that alone is a little surprising. But it's also, well, maybe not so surprising that kids naturally gravitate towards operational definitions. And so I found this online where they ask a bunch of kids, they said, what is love? And most of the time the kids would appeal to a conscious definition. They would say, well, love is when mommy gives dad the biggest piece of chicken. Or love is when you tell a boy you like his shirt and then he wears it every day after. Direct conscious experiences without appealing to other ideas. Well, we also use this in metaphor because if you really want to know something, you have to attach it to direct conscious experiences. And that's what metaphors do. And so instead of just saying, look, love is, and then you use a bunch of ideas, you say love is like a rose because you can see its beauty and you can also feel its pain with its thorns. And so by using metaphor, you actually know it instead of just thinking that you know it. And so with metaphor, and with science, we've discovered that we really don't know anything if we just sit around and think about it, because that's simple, illusory, illusion after illusion, and it doesn't go anywhere. So those expose the illusory nature of thinking. And this, of course, takes us back to the very phrase, come to your senses. And, this is why two really good quotes from Alan Watts summarized a lot of this. He said, every day you need to lose your mind for a little bit and come to your senses, which is to say, wake up and be conscious. And of course, his other, maybe most famous quote is that a person who thinks all the time thinks nothing but thoughts and therefore lives in a world of illusion. So I got two more things for you. One, I'm going to give you a quote by Julian Jaynes, who was a very important consciousness researcher, and he got a lot of what I'm getting at here, particularly with metaphor. And don't worry if you don't get it. And I'm just setting it up for a feel. And the quote goes like this: "For it should be immediately apparent," it's not really immediately apparent at all, but it should be. This is the quote: "It should be immediately apparent that there is nothing in immediate experience that is like immediate experience." So that's the hard problem of consciousness in a single quote, and why we can never use thoughts to understand consciousness, because thoughts simply don't even exist. They're a manifestation, a play of what consciousness is doing. Okay, now let's not worry about going too deep in that quote. I just gave it to set up sort of a feeling so you can meditate on this next exercise. And so I don't have my gold ring today, but let's imagine this is gold. So you've got a gold ring. This is a very old metaphor used in all kinds of different examples throughout history. So the gold is consciousness. And right now, the gold is taking a particular form of a ring. So this is gold, and it's taking a form of a ring. In the same way, the consciousness takes all kinds of different forms. One of the forms consciousness takes is this illusory, mirage-like process of thinking. But in the same way that thinking depends on consciousness, but consciousness does not depend on thinking, this ring depends entirely on the gold, but the gold does not depend on the ring. Okay, well, no other way to put this. I could take this gold, I could melt it down, I could continuously change its form. Nothing I do can destroy the gold. And the gold's been here for eternity. But it takes different forms. And so one of the meditations that you can ponder on for the weekend, or maybe just a few minutes after the video, is that while this ring while consciousness can become this ring temporarily, so consciousness, gold, can become this ring temporarily, the ring can never become the gold. So ponder on that a little bit.